The Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, better known as the GI Bill, gave veterans returning from World War II opportunities to start businesses, buy homes, and pursue an education.
Through the GI Bill of Rights, the government pays Sergeant Brown's school up to $500 a year, while Brown gets $50 a month for subsistence.
Like Sergeant Brown in this promotional film, today's veteran is going back to school and trying to readjust to being a civilian.
This sounds so cheesy, but I have like a thirst for learning. I always want to know stuff.
Stephanie Wobby is a combat veteran. A U.S. Army sergeant, she served in Iraq and Afghanistan as a line medic and rose to the position of battalion senior medic. With her hair down and wearing a hoodie, she admits she looks more average college student than war veteran.
The typical veteran, I feel like, for the regular person is someone with a high and tight, someone who is not necessarily a person of color, and someone who has a beard now, I'm assuming, you know, and I just don't fit in any of those categories. So I think my presence as a veteran is a little surprising to people, but it also, in a way, humanizes that veterans can be anyone.
Wobby enlisted in the Army out of high school. Her first assignment was Fort Riley, Kansas, 1st ID, 2nd Brigade. When she enrolled at UVM in 2017, she realized she wasn't in Kansas or the military anymore.
People would walk in late, and that never would happen in my time in the military. You would just get in trouble if you walked in late or interrupted a session or even just walked out when the class wasn't over. It's not so strict, so regimented, and you kind of have to be malleable to those. You have to adapt to all the changes. You're not in the military anymore, and you kind of have to continuously remind yourself that you're not in the military anymore. If someone's late, that's on them. You know, you're not responsible for everybody, and that's fine. Yeah.
Once the Elysia Gauls move, it's back to the Romans?
Wobby is studying Caesar's Gallic War in the Department of Classics. If she isn't a typical veteran, then this isn't a typical class either. Students use dice, foam tiles, and a giant map to play out the different military campaigns. John Franklin is the teacher.
Those kind of games really help students to find the text more interesting. The text can be bewildering and boring because they have all these names you've never heard, place names, people names, like, these people mean nothing to me. But when you start seeing them in the games, like, so, you know, this, if I capture this city, it's going to prevent the Romans from, you know, going up that valley. And then when you run into those names again, the next week's reading is like, oh yeah, that's that place. I've done these kind of game pedagogy enhancements for a lot of ancient texts, and it really does work.
This is the third time Wobby has taken a class from Franklin. The first one was to study the Odyssey. The class was only offered to veterans attending UVM. At first, she dismissed it.
I thought it was just an advertisement, like junk mail, and I was on my way to deleting it, and then I read through it, and I thought, you know, why not? This is my first semester in a new school. I don't know anybody. I might as well do this. And when I went, it was really the most refreshing transition. It helped me really make friends and kind of understand myself through the Odyssey.
In a nutshell, the Odyssey is a story of a soldier returning home from war. Franklin patterned the course after a similar one taught at Dartmouth. He's taught the Odyssey numerous times, but never like this.
They had lots of observations and insights about the Odyssey that had not occurred to me because I was not coming to it from the perspective of someone that had served in war. So they, I mean, even though I was quite familiar with the story, they had interesting takes on different episodes that had not occurred to me. And then just to, you know, get this glimpse into this whole world that they, you know, have come out of. The military is a culture, and it's a close-knit culture. It's got its own language, its own customs, its own conventions, camaraderie, the sort of virtual family relationships, and all of that was new to me.
Studying the Odyssey with fellow veterans helped Wobby feel less isolated. The classroom discussions also ignited a passion she didn't know she had.
So I had dreams of becoming a cardiothoracic surgeon and returning actually to the military as an officer. Reality struck. I did not like my subject that much, and I found that I loved English much more. And I mean, thinking of Tim O'Brien, Sebastian Unger, Tim Hetherington, like people who had gone to war and written about it and communicated the severity, the urgency, and the importance of being in war or in the military itself, that kind of resonated with me much more than going back to war as a doctor. And so that's why I changed my major to English, to better communicate that. And I mean, I love it.
It's been great.
Writing gives Wobby a place to work out her time in the service and the adjustment she's made from military to civilian life.
The community that I have now, including non-veterans, they're so understanding, and they try their hardest to kind of meet me halfway when I'm going through like emotions about my past time in the service. It's one of those things where you feel like, I've squeezed everything out of this. Let me just be done with this. But I feel like there's still more stuff to squeeze out. And a lot of the time, these emotions come up in more intimate settings, like workshops, writing workshops. And so I feel like I'm exposing a lot of myself in these essays, and a lot of the people that are attending these workshops also come from different walks of life, and they're all very understanding, and they're all very, you know, sensitive to what they say about my piece. It's not to say that they're tiptoeing or, you know, trying to hold back on their criticisms, but they're tactful and they think things through before saying something. And I think the community here is like, they're very understanding. I think they're very accommodating as well.
From being a soldier to becoming a student, this former GI has found a home at the University of Vermont. In Burlington, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.